So I'm still confused because if you wanted to pose that question, it's like I don't want to go forward
All
with
right,
the
all right,
slides.
let me ask this question. Okay, I know you're coming in, you're going to show us about how to integrate FileMaker with WordPress. If somebody had WordPress and they just getting into FileMaker, they don't have FileMaker server, are there any ideas of how, because I know you're going to be doing data API and a few more advanced things um, to get your data to interact in both directions, I think, from FileMaker server to WordPress. But if somebody just had FileMaker Pro on their desktop, that's all they've got, and they got their data organized, and they want to generate WordPress pages out of that. Any recommendations on how you would do that?
Okay, so my answer for that, as we kind of previously discussed when you first posed the question, without having a FileMaker database served, it's really limiting. But basically, if you're just talking about having data in a FileMaker file and wanting to be able to put that into a website, especially a WordPress website, I mean, it really, to me, it comes down to just being exporting that data and then manually updating the website. But one suggestion that I would have towards that is that, as we'll see, I'm going to have a part of my presentation that demonstrates how to use AI to format some coding and stuff like that. So, I mean, there's definitely a path forward for if the data was exported and then you give that data to AI, ask it to, format it into HTML, for instance, and then you could use the CWP snippets to inject that HTML um, into the WordPress website. That being said, it kind of depends on the nature of the data. If you're talking about a database of information, thousands of records or something like
And
that, that you want to
images.
be able to search and things like that. Yeah, I'm not real sure how anybody would do that other than, I mean, I guess you could use ODBC to connect and send that data up to the,
If I could get FileMaker to generate a bunch of HTML pages with the corresponding images all in the folders that they need to be, and I could take that and just like a traditional website, I could just take that whole thing and upload it into a WordPress site.
You could with the CWP snippets plugin because essentially that's what the plugin does is inject custom code into a WordPress website. So,
Ah. Okay, well then I'm ready to hear more then. Go
all
ahead.
right. Well, let's start out with a little bit about my experience. I've been developing in FileMaker for a little over 15 years. But my first exposure to FileMaker was way back in FileMaker Pro 7, and I couldn't tell you what year that is. My memory's not that good, but essentially, I ended up taking a course in Boston, Massachusetts that was scriptology by Matt Petrowski and John Mark Osborne. So I don't know if anybody remembers that book and that course that came out way back then. But that's when I was first introduced. And kind of a caveat anecdote about that, I was actually doing web development at the time. And the company I worked for sent me to that course because they had an in-house FileMaker developer team. And somebody who was supposed to take the course fell off, and the lead developer thought I would be really good at FileMaker, so they sent me to that course or asked me if I wanted to go, and I said sure. I went, I took the course. It was like a week-long course, and I excelled at it. I was really good at it. Um, and then I went back and they said, "So what do you think? You want to come over to the FileMaker side?" And I said, "Nah, I think I'll stick with web development." Because at the time, I just couldn't imagine anything more boring than working with data. And now here I am years later, and FileMaker is my life. So interesting story there. So a little about me. Currently, I'm the senior developer at RGC Data, which of course is my consulting company. So I'm basically the head cook and bottle washer. I am also the host and facilitator of the Kentuckiana FileMaker Developers Group. I've been doing that for going on four years now, I think, ever since Jonathan Fletcher stepped down. And I happened to be the guy in the room that said, I'll do it, and nobody else was willing, so I took over. Kind of got thrown into the fire, but the Kentuckiana group meets at the fourth Tuesday of every month on Zoom. and it's from 12:30 p.m. to 3 p.m. Eastern time, so it's a kind of a lunchtime thing. And you can head on over and register and see what's going on at kyfmp.com. And I do want to emphasize that everybody is welcome, no matter what your level of interest in FileMaker, seasoned professional or newbie. We welcome everybody. So I am also currently on the volunteer committee for the Full Access 2025 FileMaker Conference that's happening in Los Altos, California, coming up here on the October 20th through the 23rd. And as we discussed earlier, if you want to join us there, wah wah, bad news. Registration closed October 3rd, but we also actually will let you in a little secret. We do have a few slots open at a special discount price to fill in some cancellations and stuff. So if you are watching this presentation before, what's Monday's date? Anybody off the top of your head? Uh, Whatever the date is, Monday, following this presentation. Um, if you email myself or Eric Matthews or John Howell, we can get you in at a discount price. So uh, take advantage of that if you have the opportunity. But the other good news is that the Kentuckiana group is going to be broadcasting live from the Full Access Conference, along with a couple of other groups, including DIGFM. We're kind of making it a thing at Full Access to support the FileMaker community and the user groups. So we've got some exciting things happening with user groups broadcasting, and also um, FileMaker TV. Richard Carlton is going to be broadcasting live from there as well. So if you didn't get a chance to register and can't attend in person, you can join us. For Kentuckiana, it's a special date. Instead of the fourth Tuesday of the month, it's going to be on the third Tuesday of the month. That's October 21st during the conference. And we're moving the time up a little bit to 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. Eastern time for that. And
Hi. He's also a husband and a stepfather,
I'm recording this presentation.
and he is a foster parent for the Humane Society. He's a
Okay.
good man.
Okay. You can edit, right, Eric, after the fact?
But I really loved that. That was the best touch ever.
Okay.
Hey, Ron, Monday is October 13th.
Okay, so if you're watching this video before October 13th and you are interested in going, you can reach out to us and we can hook you up. So uh, today we're going to be talking about powering the full access conference experience with our FileMaker and WordPress. Uh, being on the volunteer committee, one of my responsibilities, one of the reasons John Howell reached out to me is because I had been doing some integration work for the Kentuckiana group, integrating our group management system in FileMaker with our WordPress website. And he asked me if I wanted to come on board and help out and build the registration system and the event management system for full access, which I happily agreed to. And so it has been a great opportunity to put the plugin that I've been working in to the test and help develop it out with some real world application. Um, so we're going to be talking about FileMaker and web integration. And the big question, of course, is how do I get my data in and out of FileMaker? So, of course, we all know some very well-known options that are out there and available. Claris, of course, has their own offering, the Claris Studio. Um, and then we have some big names out there doing some incredible work like FM Better Forms, um, which is a fantastic product that is doing great work out there. The folks over at Proofgeist have something called a Proof Kit, and they're doing some great stuff over there. So those are well worth looking into. The whole idea is to look at the project you have and what you're working with and find out which is the best tool for the job. But today we're going to be talking about CWPSnippets, which is specifically designed to work in a WordPress environment and to be able to facilitate pulling in your FileMaker data into your WordPress website. I'll be honest with you, I don't know how well any of the others kind of deal with the WordPress environment, whether they do at all or if they have options or pathways forward with that. but what you'll see is that CWPSnippets is actually specifically designed for working with WordPress. So why are we talking about WordPress? Well, the fact of the matter is that WordPress powers 43% of all websites. And of content management sites, which is basically kind of the what you see is what you get type websites, it does a full 60%. And in comparison, in the content management wheelhouse, the nearest competitors, Shopify, Wix, and Squarespace, are all less than 10%. So a lot of people are using WordPress. And of course, the percentage is even higher among small to medium-sized businesses, which I would argue is our bread and butter. But the bottom line is that it is the platform of choice for all my clients and for my web integration projects. So I started on this journey a few years back because I had a client with a WordPress website that needed web integration. And I with the tools that were available at the time, it was it was a journey, and it was fraught with some pitfalls and some difficulties. And so I ended up coming up with this plugin to make that pathway a whole lot smoother for the next people that come along, the next guy who needs to integrate with a WordPress website. So what is CWP Snippets? Well, at its core, it is a snippet management plugin for WordPress. So a snippet management plugin is a plugin that allows you to write your own custom code and inject it into your WordPress pages. So it stores and manages custom PHP, JavaScript, HTML, and CSS code snippets. And it provides a code editing environment within WordPress that includes syntax highlighting and history. So you can actually write your code right within WordPress. It's got some robust error handling built right into it to report syntax errors and also prevent critical errors from crashing the site. So we've gone to great lengths to write in error handling to keep bad code from killing your site. So it makes it a little bit safe for those who aren't great yet and maybe can at least code in comfort knowing that there's things in place to make sure that they don't crash their site. So it allows you to easily inject custom code into posts, pages, and widgets with shortcodes. And then you can also do global functions, scripts, and styles that are applied site-wide, but that's if you opt to go with the Pro package, the Pro licensing. And we'll talk more about that as we go along. So that is at its heart the full-featured snippet management plugin that it is. But then in addition to that, it's got some very specialized and specific FileMaker components that make it the choice for being able to integrate with FileMaker. So first of all, it's got built-in secure credential storage and management. So one of the first things that I encountered when I was setting up an integration with WordPress was what do I do with my credentials? I didn't want to write the credentials directly into the PHP coding because that's bad practice. And then when you're in a shared hosting environment with somebody else's WordPress website, access to environmental variables was not an easy task. So in this case, I've written in the ability to enter and store your credentials right within the plugin. The next thing it does is it handles the token handling and the connection lifecycle management. So what that means, if you're unfamiliar with how the data API works, when you make a call to a FileMaker server using PHP and using the data API, the server hands back a token, and the token has a 15-minute life cycle. So essentially, the way I think of it is that when you make that first call, it's like I imagine it like opening a session of FileMaker client on the server. It's kind of an invisible session, but I always kind of imagine somebody sitting at the server and opening FileMaker on that computer. And then you have the ability to access the data from within that session of FileMaker. As long as you continue each time you call back to FileMaker, you use the same token to make sure that you're using the same connection and that same instance of FileMaker that's already been opened. If you're not reusing the same token, it's like imagine sitting at the computer opening another instance of FileMaker every time you reach out for data. So every time you reach out, you're creating a whole new connection and you're opening a whole new session. But if you're reusing the token, basically that allows you to reuse that single session. And on top of that, there is a tiny bit of overhead, sometimes very noticeable, in opening that first connection. So once you have that connection open, those subsequent connections actually are more efficient and quicker because you've already got it open. So the snippet has the tools in place to be able to handle all that token management behind the scenes so you never even have to think about it. And what it does is it keeps that connection open for you as long as you continue to hit that connection. So every time you make a call reusing that token, it actually resets that 15-minute life cycle. So the only time that connection closes is once you've been idle for 15 minutes. So that's probably a lot of technical stuff about something that basically this plugin makes it so that you don't ever have to worry about that. Um, it includes an object-based PHP library that handles all the direct interactions between WordPress and FileMaker. So again, if you've had any experience with integrating with the data API, you'll know that there's a lot of PHP libraries out there. Back in the day, it used to be FMPDA was the first one that I started with. I'm pretty sure that most of the big companies have one that they have available. I'd like to send a shout out to 24U with FM Restore, which was one that I was using for quite a while before I graduated to this. And a lot of the functionality of this plugin is based on what was available in that PHP library. But the PHP library that CWPSnippets is using is called FMCWP, and it is specifically geared towards working in WordPress. So all of those other libraries, they actually technically will work in a WordPress website. First of all, you have to have direct file access so you can upload the library to a directory somewhere that's accessible. Then you have to be able to edit the functions file for the website to be able to call that library. But most of them are based on using sessions for managing tokens, and WordPress websites do not like sessions. They'll work technically, but they'll throw errors behind the scenes. And there's a lot of other security practices and standards that WordPress looks for that are not available in those other libraries. So again, this is stuff that you're never going to have to worry about with this plugin because we've taken all the time and the effort to write all of this to be specifically WordPress friendly and to work in a WordPress environment. And rather than using sessions to store those tokens and manage those tokens, we're actually using the WordPress database and using transients to store and manage those tokens. So a lot of stuff to say, basically, this is the stuff you don't even have to worry about. Uh, the snippet comes, or the plugin comes with a separate demo setup and demo database, which is provided. So what that means is that I built this to be a learning tool. So it's not just for production, but it's also for being able to set up and learn and practice and things like that. So there's a separate setup for the demo that allows you to kind of work in that demo environment and learn a little bit about how to manage that data. It also comes with a library of template snippets. Those are the things that perform all the common FileMaker tasks like find record, create record, delete record, edit record, all of those things that you want to do with a record in FileMaker. Those functions and tasks are already pre-written and all the templates provided with the plugin. And then it also comes with a set of sample snippets that work with the demo database to show you a set of working web pages completely styled and designed out to be fully functional with the FileMaker data from the demo database. So we will demonstrate that momentarily. So before we get into the demo, or as we get started into the demo, I'd like to talk a little bit about setting up a local development environment. For me, the most important thing and the best thing I ever did when I started learning how to do all this integration was figure out how to set up a web server on my local computer so I could hammer away at this stuff without ever worrying about crashing a website or causing problems. And when I started doing it a few years ago, the kind of the industry standard was XAMPP, which allows you to install an Apache web server on your local computer. And that web server can be done with WordPress or without. If you are interested in using XAMPP, there's plenty of videos out there that show you how to set up on your local computer and how to set up a WordPress website. But for the ease of use, not too long ago, I switched over to Local by WordPress Engine. And this Local is basically absolutely purpose built to set up a local WordPress environment on your computer. So to start with, let's go ahead and do that. I'll show you how easy that is. So this is local on my computer. What I'm going to do is set up a new WordPress website. And let's just call it DIGFM demo. And you can pretty much set up with all the defaults. Add site. And this is how quickly it will set up, and you can be up and running with your own WordPress website on your local computer. You need that Jeopardy music. Do, 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 do. There we go. Now we can hit the button to open it up. And I'm going straight to the WordPress admin, but here's your WordPress website. And it's just a basic bare bones WordPress website operating on your local computer. So that's how easy it is to set up your local environment. Let's see. So next we're going to go ahead and install the CWP snippets plugin. And if you've ever worked in WordPress, this is all run-of-the-mill stuff, basic stuff, how to install a plugin. Now, we have submitted this plugin to the WordPress repository, and we're waiting on approval so that you can just go to plugins and search for plugins in WordPress, and hopefully soon it'll be able to bring it up right from there. But for now, in order to get the plugin, you actually have to go to our website, which is CWPSnippets.com, and fill out the form. And a link to the plugin will be emailed to you. And then you just log into your WordPress website and install it. So we'll go ahead and cover that real quick. So let's take a look. Go to CWPSnippets.com, just go to the download page and fill in the information and hit submit. And a quick note, I'm such a huge believer in eating our own dog food. So everything about how this licensing, the sales, the contacts, the download, the license management for the pro licensing is all done using FileMaker databases with using our very own CWP Snippets plugin to integrate the FileMaker databases. And so everything that you ever do on our website here is actually us eating our own dog food. So then you would go to your email and download it by the link. I've already done it rather than pulling up my email and showing all my personal emails in my list. We're just going to assume that everybody knows what it looks like to go to an email and download from a link. So then you just go to plugins, upload plugin, and I'm going to choose it from my desktop, install, and activate. And now the plugin is activated. Let's take a quick look at the next steps. So once we've downloaded and installed the plugin, then we need to set up the demo database. And for that, we're going to go to the demo setup page in the plugin. We're going to download the demo database and we're going to upload it to our server. And then we'll be able to start pulling in FileMaker data. So, quick note, a couple of things that I probably should have put on a slide, but that you're going to need to make sure is that your FileMaker server has the data API enabled in the admin console. And the demo database already has the data API extended privilege enabled. But once you set up to access your own database, you're going to need to do that in your own file as well. So let's go take a look at demo setup. And here's our download for the demo database. I'm just going to download that right to my desktop. And then we're going to need the admin credentials. So if you click right here, you get all the credentials that we need for the database. Down here, we've got the admin full access username and password is admin and admin123. So we'll go over here and open up the database. Okay, and then I'm going to upload it to my file, but as I said, just to show you where to find that, I've got a user called API. And then when I go into API, if you look, I've got access via FileMaker what data API is enabled. And you'll need to have a user account set up for that in any file that you want to access. We'll go ahead and do sharing and upload to host. I'm going to upload it to my development server. It is now we're uploaded. While we're at it, log back in. Take a quick look at our admin server and show where the data API setting needs to be turned on. So if we go over to connectors and we go to FileMaker Data API, this switch right here needs to be turned on. So once we have that in place, then we can go back to our website. Or did I close it accidentally? Oh, there it is. All right, now that I've got all that in place, now I need to fill in my settings from here, which is basically going to be fill in my server, which is my development server. The database name, the one we just downloaded and uploaded to our server, is CWPSnippets. The default layout is contact detail, and the username and password, which is very creatively API and API123. And when we submit that, we get a connection successful message. That means that we have actually now connected to that demo database on our server. So we have verified that we have a successful connection to the database. So from there, what we can do is we can go and explore some of the bundled samples and templates. So right out of the box, I can go to templates and I could pick a template like find records. And when I hit preview, there it is. This data is coming directly out of that demo database. So within just 5 minutes or so, we've set up and we are now pulling data directly from a FileMaker database. So one of the things I'm going to do for now, and we'll get into it a little later, but I'm going to turn off base 65 or base 64 so we can get rid of that big ugly block of code that's sitting there. Oh, I think sometimes when you make these changes, you have to kind of make sure it gets committed by, there we go. So this is what your FileMaker data looks like when it's returned through the data API. And what it's basically doing is turning it into a PHP array. And a PHP array works almost exactly like JSON. Like as you learn to work with the array, drilling down into the data is essentially the same as drilling down into JSON. So that's the find records, and then we have stuff like load image from container, and this is where the base 64 stuff came in. So the reason why I had base 64 set up is so that we could have a couple of different options for displaying images. And we get our success message, and there's our base 64 data.
Oh, we had a
So,
question
yep.
about how you set up your local IP host. It's from Dean.
Okay.
I don't know if Dean, you want to ask that directly, or he's asking in the chat. He said, "Isn't localhost IP?" Oh, I see. That's right. He's actually flying. Isn't local IP usually 127.0.0.1? And did you have the dev xxx.yyyy DNS already set up, or localhost?
Yes, I do have on my local computer, I have dev for my local server set up, dev.rgcdata.com. However, localhost handles or local WordPress handles all that for you. So the actual URL to your local website is that's all set up when you set up the WordPress website in local WP. So once again, something I don't even have to worry about. I don't have to worry about what IP address I'm hitting or setting up a loop back or anything like that because local actually provides that. So I can actually run multiple sites using this.
Yeah,
This is the
I wanted to add also that this is totally local. You have a web server on your computer. This is not going the route where you have to turn on Apache or anything. You're not, you're letting the application that you purchased, and I've used MAMP, M-A-M-P, for years. It allows you to turn on the web server, turn off the web server. It provides a, PHP database for, set up for you. It provides a database in, used to be MySQL, but it might be something else now. It just does it all for you on your computer,
yeah.
uses your computer as the host. You're not broadcasting to the world, it's just all local. Um, you can put it on the server and use it that way so that it becomes public, but uh, it's just right there, all contained. The
Yeah.
installation is so easy, and so the documentation on it, on any of those views, is excellent. I've been using it for years, and when I first got started to do testing, I didn't want to put it on a real web servers. So yeah, you're all self-contained within that one computer that you're using.
Yeah. And this is, yeah, it's such a wonderful product. And
Yeah.
it does have two things going for it as well. There is, if you use certain, actually, I don't ever like upload to the net, but you can actually develop in this and then you can push it up to your live web server depending on what hosting company you use. Uh, and there's certain plugins I think that are necessary or whatever. Like I said, I haven't really looked into it, and it's not really in the scope of this session, but it does have pathways for you to be able to actually develop your entire website on your local computer and then push it up to the live server. So that's kind of neat. It also has the ability that you can open a live link from externally so that somebody outside of your network could actually view the website. And it's kind of a temporary live link that somebody can use to view. So if you were wanting to demo to a client or something, you could send them a link to be able to view the local website on your local computer. So that's pretty neat too. But all in all, this is just such a wonderful product because it just makes it so easy to spin up a WordPress website and be working in no time at all. So I really love it. But so anyway, that's, the first milestone of the session is basically we have set up and connected to a FileMaker database. And as you can see, um, all the essential functions are here and you have templates to be able to pull from. And so we'll get back to the presentation. I'll show you how you can make use of those. So let's see.
Hey, Ron, can you talk
Yeah,
about the no cache option? Can you explain that? What is
I
that?
will. I actually have a
Later.
slide that's all about caching, so we'll get to
Okay,
that shortly here. Um,
cool. Thanks.
yeah, kind of. I'm going to try and address a couple of different concerns about challenges that come up, and caching is definitely one of them. So anyway, to start with, the good news is that CWPSnippets provides all the complicated coding and everything to be able to make that integration with FileMaker. As we saw before, there's so much going on behind the scenes that you won't ever have to even worry about because it's all built into the plugin. Some of the advantages that it provides that contained environment where you can do your entire integration. And the scenario is when I started doing this, and I've had a number of integration projects, and more often than not, the scenario is I'm not the webmaster. I didn't build the website. I don't manage the website. It's not my responsibility other than I've been tasked with integrating with FileMaker. And so, what this CWP Snippets provides is an environment where you can do all that integration and not have to create a child theme and not have to worry about editing for those that are familiar with WordPress, the theme functions file or the theme CSS file, things like that, because whoever that webmaster in is could so easily come by after the fact and end up overwriting things that you've done or make changes that having no idea what I've done. So that's one of the other advantages of the plugin is that now you've got an environment that you can say, okay, just stay out of here. I'll do all my work in here and I won't touch any of the rest of your site. And, it really helps create a good working plan for that, multiple developers in one website. The bad news is that CWP Snippets provides the custom web publishing environment, but that means you're still responsible for writing your custom code. Unfortunately, CWP Snippets does not do that for you. And I want to say yet, because one of our future goals is going to be to directly integrate with. And that brings me to the good news again is that we now have AI. So here's what I'm going to do. I am going to do a demonstration of how easily we can build a web page using AI. So I'm going to go to Gemini. And what I've done is I've created a prompt um, ahead of time because I figured if I tried to type it in, it only took me like 5 minutes to create. But if I tried to type it in here, I'd probably botch it all up and it would take 15, 20 minutes to get the prompt right. But what I did is I basically went into CWPSnippets and I said, I want to get records. And I grabbed the code from here. And then I also ran the preview and I grabbed the response. And I came to AI and I put all that in the prompt. So I'm giving it the code to get the records and I'm giving it let's see, you probably see it easier here. So this is the prompt. I told it I'm working with WordPress with a plugin to inject code. I gave it the code and I gave it the response. And then I came down at the bottom and I said, I'd like you to build me a page to display this data. Let's see. Please write the code in separate CSS to display the records in a table with the following columns: picture, name. So it's going to build me a table with all those columns. I gave it a little bit more criteria, told it to add pagination. And then the sample has the option for running a script after you get the records. And I told it to remove that. Um, and I gave it, this is an instruction on how to make it work in the preview mode. So anyway, put all that in, put it into the prompt. We hit go, and then I crossed my fingers because about 4 out of 5 times it worked flawlessly. So hopefully this will be one of the times that it spits it out flawlessly and we'll have a working page right off the bat. So, and I've asked it to give me both the code and the CSS because one of the features of CWPSnippets that actually is kind of different than many of the other snippet plugins out there is that it gives you a separate environment to add accompanying CSS that goes along with your snippet. So you have a place to include CSS with your snippet. So we'll go over here and there we go. And so now I can just copy the code, go back over to, I got to go create a new snippet. So I'm going to go to, oops, snippets, new snippet. I'm going to paste the code in. And then I'm going to go back over here and should have the CSS for me as well. Grab the CSS, flip over to CSS, and paste that in. And then save. Oh, I forgot to put the name on it. DIGFM demo. And then create snippet. And that's it. Now I should be able to hit preview and keep my fingers crossed. And there it is. There's your fully formatted page with the FileMaker data that's being pulled from the demo database. And it includes pagination, so you can go page by page. And it's literally that easy. So from here, what I would do is I would start going back to AI and asking it to build in the functionality for the delete button and for the view button and make any changes that I want to make. But this is a great place to start. So what we have as part of the package with the plugin is actually a set of samples that you'll see obviously were built in exactly that way. So when we look at this one, it's got, a little bit different pagination, but it has the ability to view details. Come down here and hit details. Oops, gonna hit it square on. That gives me my form view, and then I can hit edit and I can edit the view. I should have changed the theme before I did this. This theme is terrible. The text is so huge that I could change the photo. I could edit any of the data. So let's do a sample of that. So say I wanted to add another phone number. If I wanted to add my mobile number in here. And before I submit that, let's bring up and show here's where the phone numbers are. And this is just the sample database that comes with FileMaker. I've just made some adjustments to use it as a demo. And then when I hit save contact, I come back and there you go. There's the phone number. I didn't do anything for formatting on this one in particular, and then if I want to come back, I can come back and delete it. So as you can see, we're actually connected to and manipulating data in a FileMaker database. And it took just a few minutes. So, all right, let's see. Let's get back to
Another question
Yep.
a couple minutes ago. Yeah, the guy with the most questions is unable to to get on microphone here. But Dean again, he says, is the fundamental implementation premise that you display data in a WordPress block element or WP block element on a WP serve page like an iframe, so that you are running inside of a WordPress styled page, but have complete control of the data display and the styling of that element? Or is it an
Yeah, so
unformatted?
I can go over that real
Yeah,
quick. So
it's a
basically
chat
what
there.
we're doing, we're using the preview button, yeah, we're using the preview button to look at the pages that we're building, but the preview button is only going to work for a logged in administrator.
Hmm.
The way you actually pull it into your pages is that you would go to pages and you would add a page. Uh, and then all you have to do is drop in the short code and publish the page. Oops, I gotta add it, give it a title. Not very good with I usually use Elementor, so let's just call it demo, publish it. And then if I go to view page, what went wrong with that?
Well,
Mm. What was I? Yeah, that's kind of weird.
what was it supposed to do?
It should pull in the code right into
Oh,
for that page.
Took it
All
literal.
right. That's the demo gods for you.
Yeah. Dean, he has questions.
Sample contact list. Yeah, there's. I do not. Yeah.
But your other part of your demo is working, so it's just this page.
Sample contact list. Yeah, it's active. I don't know why that's not working all of a sudden. I mean, this is working in websites everywhere. I'm gonna have to figure out what's gone wrong on my local demo. Usually I use Elementor, so maybe it's something different about blocks in this particular page. I don't see how that would make a difference. All right, well, I'm a little embarrassed that for some reason my demo website is not working, but what I can do is I can go ahead and move to continue on with the presentation because I can demonstrate the short codes in a couple of other websites that I actually have set up to kind of demonstrate. So let's take a look and see if we can recover from this fiasco. Examples. So one of the examples is the Kentuckiana developer group. And I'm going to look at two examples. And one of the, I did this because Eric had posed a question about, at one point, about when I did this presentation, if I could kind of show what can be done with the free version versus the paid version. So I'm going to kind of demonstrate that right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over to the Kentuckiana FileMaker Developers Group, and we're going to look at the website. And this is, I've set up staging sites for these two sites so I can mess around with them and not turn off the live sites. But let's take a quick look at what's available. So we have, oh, I remember what happened. In my development version, I changed the date to do some change, make some changes. I think I want to fix that so it shows properly. Let's go dev. That's my KYMNP. I had changed the date of the October session to the day that I was working on. So I need to change that to 21st, so it'll show that. That should fix it. Okay, there we go. Now it shows our announcement for the presentation at the full access conference. And as you can see, it shows the two sessions we're doing from there, the people that are registered. We have a registration system to register for our group. That comes up thusly. And then we also have, as you can see, along the side, we've got meeting agenda, upcoming events, archive and search. And then if we go to the archive page, this is our video archive of past presentations. And then we have the about page that talks about myself and the founders of the group, which are Jonathan Fletcher and Alan Bird. We have a contact form. And we have the My Account page where you can log in and edit your profile. And for those who are going to the conference, you'll see it's very similar to the system we have at Full Access. So what I'm going to do now to demonstrate is I'm going to go to our plugin on the plugins page, and I'm going to deactivate it. Now, when we refresh the site, you'll see exactly how much of this is being pulled from FileMaker. That's it. Everything that you saw there was being pulled from FileMaker and with the CWPSnippets plugin. So all of that content was being pulled in by shortcodes and being stored and served up from the CWPSnippets plugin. We go to archives. Again, nothing left. About the paragraph there is static data. The rest of it was being pulled by shortcodes, the sidebar, shortcodes, my account, all of it being pulled by shortcodes. So if we go back and reactivate, we'll see everything comes back into play.
A good demo.
So that's all that content is being served up and managed from FileMaker and being styled and formatted and managed by the CWPSnippets plugin. So that's the full access page. Now we're going to kind of look at, or that was the Kentuckiana page. Now we're going to take a look at the full access page. The full access page website, pretty much the same deal. Most of the stuff is very similar. If you deactivate, didn't get a good click on it. Deactivate and refresh the page. Most of the homepage on this one is static, but there's a section here for featured sessions that's no longer there, but basically the session list, the attending, all of the same, all that stuff. We've got facts that are being pulled from the FileMaker database. So if we reactivate, excuse me.
I want to answer the new question that just came up. Dean's got some great ones. And having been a web hosting provider and worked with WordPress before all this cool stuff, and like I said, having used MAMP locally, I kind of understand what he's saying. WordPress does use a database.
Yeah.
However, WordPress, through this method that we're seeing from Ron, allows us to access our FileMaker database. The database that is typically installed with this kind of implementation, like I said, you can get it automatically when you download the package, and then when you bring in WordPress, it likes to store the settings. It likes to store your preferences. It likes to store that kind of thing, as well as your data that you might use in a database for WordPress other than FileMaker. But it stores the WordPress site information in that database. And yes, it is very difficult. Like I said, I don't know what the current database is, but MySQL and using PHP allows it to encrypt and protect the data, some of the data that needs to preserve, like passwords. So trying to directly access the MySQL with FileMaker through like an ESS connection is extremely difficult. Extremely difficult, because you've got things that are hashed, can only be accessed through that PHP interface to get to the data, to read it and write it. So, you have to be really, really careful about thinking about doing it that way. And, but yeah, there are ways to do it.
Yeah. And definitely, like, all the stuff that's going on here, we're interacting with the WordPress database in a lot of ways, including when I address caching. That's one of the ways that we address caching is by storing the FileMaker data temporarily to the SQL database so that we can access it from there and reduce the number of calls to the FileMaker database.
Right.
So that's one of the concerns with caching. But so just kind of to go over a little bit about what you can do with the Pro licensing. It basically allows you to do global functions, scripts, and styles, which opens up enormous doors. It allows us to do things like create endpoints so that we just added a record. When I hit that favorites button, I just added a record to the FileMaker database without having to refresh the page. It basically called another script as a function, added the record, and it was like instantaneous and seamless, and I can remove it as well. So I can do things like that. We're doing some of the things we're doing with endpoints. I can use endpoints and use the insert from URL in FileMaker and set up webhooks and endpoints in my WordPress website using the plugin. When I look at functions here, there are several of them here that are actually like the Stripe endpoint, the upload endpoint. These two actually are set up to be able to receive a call from insert from URL from the FileMaker database. Um, the Stripe endpoint allows us to be able to take payments from within the FileMaker database. I can demonstrate that in a couple minutes, but the upload endpoint allows me to take images and container fields in the FileMaker database and upload them to the website using the insert from URL. So the extension of the functionality that you get when you go to the pro version is it's like it's really hard to demonstrate by looking at the site because it's mostly behind the scenes stuff that it does, but it also just makes it more convenient for being able to do functions and not having to include a function in every page. You can write it once as a global function and be able to reference it. So let's see if we can get back to the presentation and maybe we can cover some of those things. So those are a couple examples of websites. Those were my staging versions, but they are live and active and being used for both of those organizations and situations. So getting to a couple of the challenges with using FileMaker data, caching is one of them, and that was something that I believe Vince asked about. It's really important to develop a strong caching strategy. If for anybody who's not familiar with web technology or WordPress or anything like that, what caching is that when a user loads a web page, either your browser or sometimes the server or sometimes a plugin on your WordPress website will store a copy of that page as it exists at that moment. And the next time somebody goes to pull it up again, rather than recreating the page, it pulls that stored version of the page. So when you're working with live data from a FileMaker database, the problem is that if it's serving up a stored version of that page, then it's not getting the up-to-the-minute data from the FileMaker database. So sometimes that's fine. On the Kentuckiana group, we have the archive page for the previous sessions. Well, those aren't going to change, but once a month when I upload the new one, other than that, that stuff's not going to change. So it's perfectly fine to have that cache and be able to serve up, a stored copy of it and not hit the database every time somebody pulls up that page. But so that goes towards reducing database calls because there is an overhead when you pull the data from FileMaker. So you want to come up with a way to not pull that data any more often than you have to. So in situations where the data does need to be live or at least very close to live, one of the things that we can use is a WordPress transient. And the way that works is that the page loads, it pulls the data from FileMaker, it stores that data, the response data that we just pulled from FileMaker gets stored in the WordPress database in what's called a transient. And a transient has a time limit. So you can set whatever time limit you want. You can set it to 2 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, 10 days, 6 months. And when that time limit is up, the next time that the page tries to reference that data, it's gone. So you can set up a situation where you would have, if the data exists in this transient field, then use that data. If not, make a new call to FileMaker. And so you can kind of judge how often is your data going to change and what's the critical, timing of that to make sure that you want to get fresh data as fresh as you need it to be, but without doing a fresh call every single time. Because if we have ways of kind of turning off caching, but then what that means is that every time that page gets loaded or refreshed, it's pulling that data, it's running that find again, it's doing that, it's pulling that data all over again from FileMaker. So the question was asked earlier about the caching. We have a switch in here, no cache, and I debated on it. We're calling it cache suppression. What it does is it adds headers to any page with that short code in it, or that function. In this case, it really shouldn't apply to functions. It's more for pages. And it adds headers to tell the web page and tell the browser don't cache it, to tell the host don't cache it, to tell any WordPress plugins, if you use plugins like Lightspeed or anything like that, it's best to understand how to use those plugins so you can go in and tell it which pages to cache and which pages not to cache. But when we flip the switch in CWPSnippets, it actually sends a message to the in the page that says, "Hey, if you're a caching plugin, don't cache this page." However, I couldn't guarantee 100% that that's going to control your cache all the time. Servers work differently, plugins work differently. So it's not a guarantee. It's more of a, we're going to try and suppress the cache, but that's where, you want to kind of judge all of that with your caching strategy to try and come up with the best caching strategy for your site. The other real challenge that I ran into when I first started doing data API integration was images, images and files. So the way FileMaker serves up container data is when you make the call to the database and your container data is part of the data being returned. What FileMaker returns is a URL to that container, to the server. And out of the box, you cannot just take that URL and pull up an image. It will not work. You will not be able to show that image in a page. You will not be able to do that in, send it to somebody. It's the security of that URL is set to where it's only good for one session and one person, one time, and it's tied to the token that you use to access FileMaker. So it's got all this security tagged into it. So one of the first things you need to do to get by that is it's something that we cover. We have built-in documentation in the plugin. And if you go to FileMaker containers, it talks about you have to run this command on your server. And it's not something that's available in the admin console. You actually have to run it on your server through command or shell. And you basically turn authenticated stream equal to 2. And what that does is it makes it a persistent URL is what the term is. And then you can actually start pulling it and using it like you would any other URL that points to any other image, with this one caveat. It is a time limit for how long that it's good. And FileMaker reserves the right to not specify how long that URL is good for. So apparently they want to have the ability to change it in the future if they deem necessary, so they don't tell us how long that URL is good for. But you will find that, if you're using that URL and you try to reuse it a week later, it's not going to work. So that becomes part of your caching strategy. So you want to set up your caching so that you can make sure you're getting fresh URLs relatively on a regular basis so that you can view those images. One of the workarounds for that, and actually we saw it earlier on in the demonstration, is that you convert your files or images to base64, and then you pull that field over, and you're basically pulling over the base64 data, and you re-encode it on the website page. And that is like a surefire way to be able to view your images, because it's just base64 data. It's just data. It's not a URL or anything.
So
And then the other option that we have is to be able to actually, something that I use a lot, because like for Kentuckiana, I like to include some images in email blasts and things like that. So as I talked about earlier, we have an endpoint that we set up in the WordPress, in the CWPSnippets plugin, where I can upload images to the web server. So if you were on Kentuckiana, and this actually works the same way for full access, and you go to edit your profile and you upload your profile picture, what's happening is that profile picture is getting inserted into the FileMaker container, and then a script runs on the FileMaker database that turns around and using insert from URL uploads that image up to the web server. So it's kind of like this round trip that it's taking in order to be able to make that serve that image up from the web server like any other URL. So it's use case. You basically take a look at what you're using it for and figure out what the best way to use it is. Again, you can refer to our documentation to help you out with that stuff. It took me a long time to understand what was going on and how to get around some of these roadblocks, because there wasn't a lot of information out there about it, and there wasn't a lot of people doing it, especially in WordPress. So it took me a while to finally get some of this information. So something to be aware of. All right, so this slide is about what's next for CWPSnippets. So one exciting thing that we have on the horizon is a snippet library. So what we're working on is a number of snippets like the upload endpoint, the Stripe endpoint. Um, we've got about, I think, half a dozen or 10 or so that we're working on of pre-written snippets that are going to be available on our website for people to just be able to download and import into their own website using CWPSnippets, because CWPSnippets has the import capability to import snippets. And so you can actually have, if you look here under add-ons, these are in full access. These are the kind of add-ons that are in full access. The favorites endpoint, ability to set up endpoints. This one's for Stripe. The upload endpoint gives you some security with generating a key that you have to put in the script. And the FileMaker side, this is our vCard endpoint, where we have vCards available that people can download from a QR code. The attendee endpoint. So most of these are custom, but the upload endpoint is going to be available um, in the library. I can actually show you some of the other ones that we have available because I'm working on them in this local website right here. So if we go to CWP, so like we have just some simple ones that are for storing API keys for reCAPTCHA, for Stripe, for AuthNet. Uh, this is just like a generic custom settings one. This is for loading a Stripe payment form into a FileMaker database so that you can actually take payments using Stripe from FileMaker. This is our upload endpoint, and then we've got a couple of WooCommerce type ones. So that's one of the things that we're working on, is coming up with a group of free downloadable snippets from a snippet library to extend the capabilities of the plugin. And then we're also exploring integrating with OData. I don't see that happening anytime too soon, but something on the horizon. And of course, integration with AI is definitely on the horizon. But that pretty much concludes the presentation. So at this point, if we still have any other questions in chat, or if anybody else has any other questions they want to ask, shoot.
Ron, this is very cool. I didn't know the depth and breadth of it. I really appreciate you giving us this tour. And just a quick question, if you could comment on how would you compare and place your solution, the CWPSnippets, and CWP stands for what exactly?
Custom web publishing.
Custom web publishing. Okay.
Yeah, the old school term that we've had around for FileMaker for a long time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I was okay. So how would you compare what the use cases would be, and if you could kind of like, if you need to do this, then use this solution. If you need to do that, then, like, so compare Clara Studio, this solution, and then FM Better Forms, and like give a use case for all three.
Um, well, I guess the first thing that I would say about making that comparison is really has to do with what environment we're working in. Because if we're talking about working in WordPress, I don't think any of the other three really fit very well. I don't know, and to be honest, I've been putting so much work into the conference and into the plugin. Like I really need to spend more time researching those other three and getting more familiar to them to be with them to be able to give you a better answer on that. But from everything that I've seen, they're not really geared for WordPress, and so like Clara Studio, for instance, is basically would rely on iframes or directing the user outside of your website into, the Claris environment. Claris doesn't have the kind of flexibility to style your forms and your interactions the way that this does. And of course, the Claris Studio comes with that whole other overhead of having to maintain tables in Claris Studio to, interact with the FileMaker database. So it's really an entirely different animal altogether. I think one of the beauties of this is that it's a direct interaction directly from your website into the FileMaker database and to the FileMaker tables and fields and records. So again, I think FileMaker's Clara Studio from the time it came out, there's always been a lot of potential and it's been moving forward and making great strides and really doing well, uh, going where it's going. But I don't know that it's where it needs to be for a lot of the integrations that I would want to do. I find a lot of this is why I put so much time and effort into this because I got real excited when Clara Studio first came out until I found out its limitations and didn't really feel like it was something that I wanted to work with. As far as FM Better Forms, um, again, I'm not sure how well it works with WordPress. I imagine it does. I imagine it works well, but my impression of FM Better Forms is that it's kind of probably doesn't have the flexibility of the fully customizable look and feel. I'm not sure if any limitations there are with the interactions. Like what this allows me to do with my FileMaker data is absolutely anything I want. I can pull it in, display it how I want. I can interact with it any way that I want. So far, of all of the different kind of ideas and things that have come up between developing the Kentuckiana site, the full access website, and the couple of other integrations that I've done, there hasn't been anything proposed that I haven't been able to do
Yeah,
to
yeah.
interact with that data. And so that's been,
Mhm.
again, I wish I could give a better answer, but I'm just not an authority on the other products to the degree that I can really speak to it.
Yeah.
And I don't want to, downplay the other products or
Yeah,
denigrate
of
them in any
course.
way because they're all fantastic products.
Yeah,
I
understood.
know ProofKit takes a different approach. I think that's all done in JavaScript. It's a different approach because I couldn't even begin to tell you and how ProofKit works, but it's definitely different than just
Hmm.
because my understanding is you put it all together and then it compiles it and then provides it that way, which is something that I don't understand. And the beauty of this is that um, once upon a time, many years ago, I did web development, but 10 years later, everything changed and I had to relearn the whole landscape. But I
Mm.
was so more focused on FileMaker. So I don't consider myself a web developer. I consider myself a FileMaker developer, and I dabble in web development. Now, my protege, Alex, he's a web developer. He is fantastic with the web coding. So what I've found though is that this allows me to not have to be an expert web coder to be able to put this stuff together, especially where we're providing a learning environment where you can start to tear apart the code and learn how to code. So it's really friendly to, okay, I don't quite know what I'm doing yet, but I need a place to play around. And this gives you that because you have plenty of
Yeah.
ability to just kind of test and experiment and play around and uh, so
Yeah. Yep. Appreciate it. I
yes,
think there's
I don't
some
know if
good
that's a good answer
comments.
for you, but that's
Yeah, no,
yeah.
no, that's perfect. I mean, I think Dean, I think you're having problems with your microphone, but he had some good comments to add to this conversation. FM Better Form, FM Better Forms builds web pages standalone, not using WordPress. The results are similar to CWP snippets on dynamic pages, but for the rest of the website, static pages, FM Better Forms is overkill and expensive. And then he goes on
Yeah.
to say
Uh,
some other comments here. But you see it, Ron? Do you see his comments?
I don't at the moment. I don't know
Okay,
what happened to
I
my
can read
interface.
I can read the other two comments because if
Sure.
people are listening, they might not see the comments. So Studio does not have this flexibility as far as I know. Studio rocks for forms and compared to CWP snippets is expensive. The key difference is that customer can do their own thing in WordPress in terms of other non-database content and styling while you as a developer own the dynamic data part of the solution. Another 200 miles went by.
And because he's
Thanks
on
for
a
being my
plane.
voice. Oh, I see. Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
That reminds
Thanks,
me,
Dean.
I should have already done this, but just to take a
Oh,
look at the pro version, the licensing starts at $99 a year for one site, and then you can buy, packages in multiple sites uh, for licenses per site. So, two 199 for three sites, 399 for 10. So yeah, it's very affordable, um, especially compared to, yeah, FM Better Forms is definitely pricey. I know that was one thing that when I did look at it, I thought, yeah, that's kind of priced out of my price range for the budget that I had when I looked at it. So,
Hmm.
and then we have a, quick feature breakdown here of,
does FM does the see the WordPress tools that you work with, does it already have any integrations with AI already?
No.
uh, CWPSnippets doesn't yet. And
But
it
but the WordPress plugins, do they have any
Yeah, definitely.
integrations?
WordPress has been coming out with a number of different plugins that have AI integration. As a matter of
Hmm.
fact, I hate to bring it up, but one of my competitors in the snippet management realm, uh, which let's see if I can find the right website. I actually have their plugin loaded. This is snippet management without any FileMaker integration, but they actually have AI integration as part of their pro package and all that kind of stuff. So uh, that's kind of where I'm looking at next. Like I want to be able to do that too. Uh,
Hmm.
but that particular snippet plugin is like one of the biggest ones out there with millions of people using it and stuff. So um, and that's how I started doing my integrations with FileMaker was using snippet plugins, but I had to figure out how to make the connection and do the things to get connected to FileMaker, and that's why I decided to write it into my own plugin. And I thought others could benefit from it too. So
Yeah, there's interesting. We're talking about CRUD operations, really.
yeah,
It's the bread and butter of the web. But there was an interesting talk. I don't know if anybody here listens to Lex Friedman, but I sometimes listen to his shows. They're very long, but he had a whole conversation with uh, DHH. Oh, what's his name? He 6 hours. Like the whole podcast is like 6 hours. It's crazy. It's with the AI. Sorry, the future of programming, and I'll post the link here momentarily. But this is with David Heinemeier Hansen, legendary programmer, creator of Ruby on Rails. Anyway, I got through like a few hours of it, but like, and it goes through all his history of growing up and programming and getting into programming and all this.
Yeah.
And anyway, it just fascinates me to no end that that's what the basically we're doing all the time. We're just, moving data around, you know.
Mhm.
So yeah, but I'll post the link if anybody wants to listen to part of it. It's fascinating conversation.
Some of the other kind of neat stuff that is all built into this is it has a history, so you can use Control Z and you can actually use Control S to save. And let's see, I know it, the error handling with this kind of stuff, one of the things that you kind of run into is that when you save your code and then you go to view your page, that's where you see your error. But what we've done is created that. So I'm going to purposely put in a syntax error. And so we get a syntax error warning right here. If it were to produce a critical error, it would automatically deactivate this snippet so that it would no longer, so it wouldn't crash your site. So if you saved a snippet that had a critical error that would potentially crash your website, the plugin catches it, deactivates the plug or the snippet, and then reports the error to you so that you can fix it without crashing your website. And we've got some custom error logging written in, things like that. So I mean, we've put a huge amount of work, and I say it's like me and Alex and AI have put an amazing, a ton of work into this thing to build in all these features. So it is a very feature-rich snippet management plugin to begin with. And then, of course, it has all of the FileMaker integration stuff. And I showed you the demo setup, but so this is where you set up for the demo. And oh, I should probably go over this. Once you have the demo set up and you go to your snippets, what you'll find is the templates and samples reference the credentials right here. So this is referencing the demo credentials. When you want to use the production version, what you do is you take off the underscore demo. And that's how you would reference the production version, which you have a separate setup for like your production server and your production database that you want to work in. So I have it set up for both at this point, but let's see. Yeah, there's the fresh one that we just made. So we don't have anything set up for production, but we have our demo set up. So the samples and stuff. So what you would do is you'd go to templates, you'd grab, if you wanted to grab find records, and even in the example that I did with AI, that was one thing that I would need to adjust if I were trying to work from my production database. Then I would go in, create a new snippet, paste my code in here to start with, and then I would remove the underscore demo, and that would be referencing the production. So technically, you could set up two servers and two databases and just reference one as the demo. But the idea is that the demo can be in place so that you can kind of look and see how things interact.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Dean is sold.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, you should see his comments. I
Yeah.
think he's gonna show up and hug you by the neck and tell you how great a guy you are.
Yeah, and one of the things that, I mean, talking about how AI has helped me in developing this plugin, but it also makes it so easy for the end user to be able to start doing things that just a few short years ago, if you didn't have enough, PHP and CSS and all the knowledge of those coding languages, you'd be afraid to tackle this, right? You'd be afraid to try and code a page to pull in your FileMaker data because, maybe I would have been at that point where I was like, I don't even know where to begin. But now we have AI where you can, people have that tool to be able to get started with this stuff. And I find that I also learned so much. My coding has improved drastically through using AI because I learned from the code that the AI produces for me. So I'm not just letting it produce it and then throwing it in without looking at it. Like I'm learning how it's done. And so I've actually learned to be a better coder by using AI as well. So
Yeah, it's like pair programming in a sense,
yeah,
Now you get the electronic version of pair of the little buddy that's
yeah.
helping you, rubber
Yeah.
ducky. And
Now that
I
being
agree with
said,
you. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
That being said, one of the things I should point out is, you know, we here at RGC's Data are available if you'd like to hire us to do your coding for you and do your integration for you. I mean, I'm not charging very much money for this, so I'm not making a whole lot of money on the licensing. So the hope is that people will use the plugin and they'll be able to do some stuff. But if you have more complex integrations and are looking to hire anybody out to do them, that's what we're here for. So hopefully it'll bring us some work.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're looking for shortcuts, then you just might want to cut all the cut it all and then have somebody else
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah, just give me a call. We'll put it together for you. But that's it. Was there any other questions? Anything else in chat that we missed? I didn't really get a chance to go through all the chat, so hopefully you guys were watching.
Um, I think we asked all Dean's questions, and he has nothing but good things to say about this, and even comparatively to other solutions.
Well, thank you, Dean.
And
I did have one quick question.
yeah,
If we're running a live site and a demo site, then we're looking at really having the 3-site license, aren't we, for that
Yes.
one?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because
That would
we're going to be doing this in test sites, aren't we? All of us. We're not going to just go straight to live, aren't we?
that would probably be the better way to go. Sure. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I've got a setup currently where I've got an Australian plus a New Zealand site running off the one host. And then we want to run some dev sites of both of them. So we're actually probably at the 4 point. So I'm not sure if you could pop up the licensing table again there, where we're
Yep.
sharing
Sure.
the screen. Yep.
Let's go to pricing. So we go from 3 to 10, and it's just
Yeah. Yeah. So it's probably the business.
yeah.
And your tiers of the different uh, number of sites do work well, particularly with the recent news that we've had about going from starter to max, or whatever it's called for the cloud hosting, if anyone's following that conversation. So these are very reasonable.
Yeah, I don't, I'm hoping we're not asking too much and, hopefully we'll see how it goes. But this is, for me, it's a new product. It's not something that I've done before. So, uh, just trying to figure our way. And I think we've done it pretty well. I think one of the things I'm extremely proud of is that actually in the site itself, under licensing, the license key management is all done again with a FileMaker back end. The when you activate your license, it's using an endpoint to the CWPSnippets website, and that's tapping into the FileMaker database that's got all of the records for the licenses and the sites that are activated and all that stuff. So even right down to the license management is all done using FileMaker and our very own plugin. So it again goes back to that eating our own dog food. And I was really proud of that. I'm not sure what this error is. I'll have to look into that. Probably shouldn't have pointed it out. It's expired as undefined on line 21. All right. Well, that might be a bug I have to look into. Uh, oh. All right.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Good demo. And the one little glitch we saw just kind of showed that it was you're doing it for real, not just faking
Yeah.
it.
I know every single one of us that's ever done a presentation has dealt with the demo gods, and it's always, right in the middle of a presentation, something's got to go wrong. So well, that's all I got, Eric.
Well, that's the last of the questions. Guess so. We can, on this topic, we can discuss any other things. Of course, for anybody who showed up late, we do have is it 5 free seats? No, not free. 5 half-price seats um, for full access conference in Los Altos. So they're going for 750. I think last when registration closed, they were going for 1,500.
Yeah.
So we've got 5 seats at 750 each. If anybody showed up late, missed registration, um, those are available. All you have to do is send an email to, I'll put it in the chat, but essentially to um, John, JONN at fullaccess.us or Ron at rgcdata.com. He's the one who did the presentation today, and eric.matthews at sjsu.edu. And we can get you into full access if you missed the registration earlier. Okay. And guess the other announcement is we do have we have an extra DIGFM meeting this month, and it'll be on October 21st at 3 o'clock. The presentation will be at 3:30, and it's going to be about user groups, developer groups, and a lot of other things related to our community. So it's going to be almost kind of like a user group meeting about user groups. But yeah, actually, so Rick Kalman will actually be there with us. He'll be on the panel. Ron will be there again. I'll be on there. Vince also. Um, who else? Mike Ross. Did I get everybody? We're asking one of the person if he's interested. But in any case, yeah, that's everybody, I think. And yeah, I think it gives us an opportunity to talk about meetups like this, training, mentorship, all kinds of things that that are used to get the word out about products and services and ideas, all the things that we tend to do here at conferences and user groups. And we're trying to see if there's a better way we can do this, do it maybe more sustainably so that um, we'll see. So yeah, take a peek at that. An advertisement went out. I think an email went out for that already today, just before this meeting. So to keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, I got that email. So
Okay, good. It does make me nervous because sometimes a couple times I sent them out and the links were wrong or something. It's like, when you send out like nearly 100 of those, and you goof up. So that's I think all I have for announcements. Anything from you, Vince? Tony? Is there
Uh,
another user
no,
group tomorrow?
FM Disk, I think,
Are they?
tomorrow. Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, it is.
Okay. So that'll be in the morning. I guess the only bad thing about that, Ron won't be presenting at that one, so. Darren's got another question?
I'm not getting up at the next one, John. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, so we keep it at this time just for you, actually.
Yes. Well, I've got to make sure I show up then, don't I? So, no, this is a really interesting topic and a timely one for me because we're at one of my clients. We're redoing the complete WordPress site, and part of the functionality is to update the SEO to standardize between the two sites, and then to see how we're going to get data between FileMaker and obviously WordPress. And the other project we're looking at is the difference between SEO and also AI-based searching for sites to get there. So the whole area of the web is completely changing, and this CWPSnippets seems to take one of those areas out of the overhead of trying to get them to all talk to each other. So yeah, it looks pretty good.
Great. I'm excited.
Again, a lot of the work we're doing is outside of FileMaker these days. As you would know, Bethany,
Pardon me?
as you would know, most of our work is outside of FileMaker these
Oh,
days.
I mean, I started out as web developer and FileMaker developer at the same time, back when FileMaker was 2.1. And then I learned how to integrate so that I could do web and FileMaker, various means. Didn't have AI, had to look up everything on Google that I, needed to learn. But I did find the MAMP really, really early, and it was a great way to learn how to do web testing locally. You don't have to have an IP address. You're not serving to the world. It all stays within your computer. You can turn it on, turn it off very, very easily without having to learn all of that web server stuff that I had to learn for our, bank of web servers. But again, I highly recommend it to anybody that wants to test PHP, or you can put other things on there. It's just a web server, but it's made easier for you to work with. So,
Bethany, do you have a preference over LAMP or WAMP or MAMP
I
compared to local?
MAMP only because it was Macintosh, but they do have a Windows version, and they may have a Linux version. I can't remember, but like I said, I've seen people put it out there as is there, but instead of locally, it's put onto a real machine that is meant to be a web server and have it integrate with FileMaker. So it's totally possible. And again, it has that real easy, you don't have to worry about the security or any of that. It's all set up for you when you install whatever it is you're going to use as a web server. Really, really, really slick.
Yeah. I would also suggest, if you're wanting to do WordPress on your own development machine and you don't want to mess with the underlying services, local is a great way to go.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
It sets up all the mapping, sets up all the local DNS, like was asked earlier in the conversation.
Yeah.
If you want to get started with WordPress, you do have things like the WD hosting and a few of these sites that say to you, "Oh, come and learn here, or get a free site here," but you don't have any plugins. And as soon as you want to do anything with WordPress, you've got to add a plugin, and then you start paying.
Right.
Local gets you right around that. You can start running your plugins like what we've just seen within the local environment.
And you can back it up and
yep.
If you install a plugin that hoses your site, you've got your backup, and it's really a good playground to learn. But it like Ron says, once you've got it created locally, it certainly can be hosted on a real hosting, however, you set up a web server, somebody that provides hosting, and you say, here's my WordPress site, but I've learned how to do it. I've been able to play with it. I've learned, a whole lot of things that I probably would not have been able to do otherwise, or it would have been really, really difficult, but it's great.
Absolutely. I've
Your
just pasted the
own
link.
little web server the easy way.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
it's yeah, it's fantastic how I mean, I absolutely love it. And it just brings to mind too, and Beverly's been around with Kentuckiana for the last several years, and I've talked so many times in those groups. Like I've been on a long
I'm gonna
journey.
say day one I was
Yeah, web integration was like a big thing from
yeah.
from day one when I got involved with Kentuckiana, and I've been on a long journey of trying to figure out all this stuff about how to set up a local development environment, all of the stuff that I talked about with managing images and the URLs and learning all that stuff. And man, it's been a long journey, but basically what it came down to is when I built this plugin, like I wanted to save somebody else from having to go through a 6-month learning curve
Yep.
just to get started for step one. And then, it took me, a couple of years of piecing all of the pieces together to figure out how to do this. Because especially in WordPress, there was nothing out there for videos, for blogs, for anything. I dare say there's nothing out there that talks about FileMaker and WordPress. And
No.
so I kind of, built this thing in mind with the reason why I built it is like as a tool for being able to learn, for be able to experiment with, and for somebody who's interested in doing this stuff to be able to just feel free to be able to play around and really tear things apart. And it's because I've been through that learning curve. And so, if nothing else, this thing saves a lot of time in, all of that aspect of learning how to put together that making the connection to begin with, managing the tokens, you know, uh, setting up and the class, the object-oriented PHP class with all the functionality,
Yep.
even with the ones that were out there and available, which was a huge step to begin with, is finding that, there were all these people that were nice enough to make them available out there, but then learning how to use them and how to set them up on a website and all that stuff. And so this takes all that learning curve right out of the picture for the next guy that comes along and says, "Oh, there's a plugin for that." So, yeah. So appreciate it because
Yeah.
there's
Thanks, Ron.
a lot of work went behind, mapping out that whole thing. But
Yep. Thank you, Ron.
yeah. I did figure out why the short code demonstration didn't work, by the way, if anybody's interested. I forgot that the plugin is set up to where samples and templates aren't actually meant to be used with short codes. I thought I had them active, but I think it's one of those things where I think AI may have changed that on me without me realizing. So the short codes for templates and samples don't work, but they do for the actual snippets. So the production snippets are supposed to be your production snippets that are the ones that you're actually injecting into your pages. So anyway, that's why it didn't work, and I'm going to be fixing that though, because I don't think there's any reason why you shouldn't be able to drop a short code to a template or a sample and have it work as well. So I'll have that fixed in the next update. So just wanted to confess.
Very cool. Thanks again, and wishing you the best of luck with this endeavor.
Yeah. One more burning.
First,
How old is that cat?
yeah, about 2 months, something like that. Yeah, first my wife coming in and hanging over my shoulder. Now we've been fostering kittens lately, and yeah, she's a holy terror. Yeah. All right, well, folks, it's getting kind of late in my neck of the woods, so
Okay.
I don't know if we've hit our end time yet or not, but
Oh, it could go on forever depending what the conversation turns into, but
yeah, I'm it's been a
but,
long day for me,
but
so
we'll set you free. You did your duty for sure.
Yeah, I've got to get off. Thanks, Ron. That was
you're welcome.
excellent. Um, I think you're presenting it a couple other places.
I'm going to be presenting it at the Full Access Conference, and that's going to
Okay,
be
yeah,
and
yeah,
that's going to be live at on the Kentuckiana group as well. So
yeah.
October 21st, the Kentuckiana group, you'll be able to watch it live from the conference. So
But
Very cool.
no wife or kittens at that one, so it's not going to be as
yeah, I got to be careful though. She'll probably climb in my suitcase if I'm not careful. Uh, she'll end up in California with me whether I want her to or not. All right, folks.
Very good. Thanks.
Thanks,
You're
thanks,
welcome. Have a good
Ron.
night.
Thanks.
Take care.
Thanks, Ron.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye, Beverly.
Bye bye.
Oh, did Vince leave?
No, I'm still
Oh,
here.
no,
No,
right
no.
there. Everybody moved around as people were leaving. Oh, any other conversation? Anything else you want on recording?
Hey, I'll jump in.
Yeah.
Let's see who we got here. We're still being recorded.
Yes, that's why I was asking if you want anything else.
I got something for the post record, but no rush.
Well, I do have, I don't know, because I have some starting slides and some discussion topics for the next meeting on the 21st. I don't know, Vince just disappeared. If he wants to help me review some of those slides later. We could do that tonight, or where are you today anyway, Vince?
Me, I'm in Boca Raton, Florida.
Oh, okay.
Boca.
At least it's not 3 a.m. for you or anything weird like that.
What's that?
Yeah, at least it's not 3 a.m. or something weird like that.
Yeah, no, that's horrible. That's definitely. The last one I missed was completely a write-off. I remember we went to Norway this past summer, and I just closed my computer, didn't open it for 3 weeks or something, and it was the most amazing vacation. The whole family fell in love with Norway, and yeah, it was great. Yeah, just really, I've never been in a place where it was so quiet. There's just such nature and the light, because it's like still summer, and so the light was like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. There was still light in the sky. It was just really, really beautiful.
Yeah, Vince, we've got family in Norway, and we spent some time in Oslo, and they're actually in Sandy, which is probably about an hour train drive towards the bay there, and yeah, it is really quiet. And just the culture of eating at 10 o'clock at night, because that's sort of like the end of the day. To be over there and working US-wise, you could probably start work at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and work till 10 o'clock at night while the family's getting the dinner ready. And then that's the end of the normal day. It really is a lovely place.
Yeah, we took, I think we took one ferry, and the ferry was this very streamlined thing where they lower it, all the cars and trucks get on, but they had this one thing that was on the side, this connector, this electric connector. It charges the vehicle or the boat, and then when it was time to move, it just uncouples itself, and then it starts moving. Completely quiet, like no rumble, nothing. Like it was very futuristic. It was so smooth. Anyway, yeah, very cool.
Go ahead and stop the recording then.